If the commerce that shaped Canada's future began anywhere, it is here, at Tadoussac, on the St. Lawrence River. Ever since Cartier's time, French and Basque fishermen have been trading furs with the Montagnais Indians. At first, it is only a sideline. But by the early 17th century, the profits are turning out to be spectacular. The Canadian furs are thick and shiny, good enough to command the highest prices in Europe. One of the French adventurers at Tadoussac in the summer of 1608 is a former soldier turned explorer and mapmaker. His name is Samuel de Champlain. Champlain's backers order him to find a new location away from the competition.
The country is fine and level, and the soil better than in any place I had seen, with extensive woods. Along the shores, one would think the trees had been planted as ornaments.
He comes up with a bold but simple plan. Go beyond Tadoussac into the little-known lands farther west, build a new trading post, and spend the winter there. When spring comes, the Indians of the interior will bring their furs to Champlain first. In July, he sets off along the river with 100 men and stops at a place he has seen once before.
I looked for a proper place for our settlement, but I could find nothing more suitable or better situated than the point of Quebec, so called by the natives, which was covered with nut trees. I at once employ a part of our workmen in cutting them down to make a site for our settlement.
Champlain's men quickly build a storehouse and 3 fortified buildings. But his competitors will not allow themselves to be bypassed so easily. There is a traitor in Champlain's little band, the locksmith Jean Duval. The Basque bribe Duval, order him to murder Champlain and hand over Quebec to them. At the last minute, Champlain discovers the plot. He has been a soldier and knows how to handle mutineers.
To serve as an example, Jean Duval was hanged and strangled, and his head put on the end of a pike and set up in the highest point of our fort.
As summer comes to an end, most of Champlain's men return to France. Only 27 remain with him to face the Canadian winter. It comes almost without warning, but Champlain has already spent 3 winters in Acadia and thinks he knows the worst.
The cold was more extreme than in France and lasted much longer. You don't know this country unless you spent winter there. There are 6 months of winter in this country.
Champlain is sure his men have everything they might need.
All those who were with me were well clad, slept in good beds, and were kept warm and well fed.
While Champlain works on his maps, his men wait and wait. Among them, a surgeon, Bonherme, and a man named Lataille. The youngest is Etienne Brûlé, just 16. Champlain considers him a son and calls him my boy. As the weeks passed, they dream of the world they have left behind. In France that winter, the laws of fashion rule, and they decree that every gentleman must have a beaver hat. The finest hats cost 4 times what one of Champlain's men earns in a year. Philip Stubbs watches as the trend reaches England.
Every man does wear of these hats, for he is of no account or estimation among men if he have not a hat. As the fashions are rare and strange, so is the stuff from which their hats are made. The most curious are those made of a certain kind of fine hair. These they call beavers.
But the pursuit of fashion has its price. Europe's insatiable demand for beaver skins claims its first victims at Quebec. It's February 1609.
The scurvy began very late. The sickness attacks those who take great care of themselves as much as the most wretched. 18 were struck down with it, and of these, 10 died.
Bonnerme, the surgeon, is dying. Champlain himself is struck down. It appears that winter will achieve what the Basques have failed to do: destroy Champlain's outpost. Their suffering drags on for months. But finally, spring comes, and with it, fresh food and hope.
It is a remarkable thing that 2 or 3 fathoms of snow and ice on the river should all be melted in less than 12 days. On the 8th of April, the air was still rather cold. Some of those who were ill with the scurvy got better. On the 5th of June, there arrived at our settlement a ship, which gave me much joy and relief. Of our company, now only 8 of the 28 remained, and half of these were ailing.
Just 8 men left. Sick and exhausted, barely alive. No one realizes they have staked a claim that will resound for centuries. But Canada belongs to someone else. The French need allies and teachers if they are to unlock the secrets of this land. There is much to learn. Champlain and his handful of Frenchmen have entered a complex and volatile world that is not theirs. But the native peoples of Canada are prepared to tolerate these strange new arrivals, as long as they are useful. The Montagnais and the Algonquin have already been trading with the French for 10 years. They are allies of the powerful Huron, who live near the Great Lakes. Together they control the territory north of the St. Lawrence. To the south live their traditional enemies, the Iroquois, a confederation of 5 nations. For now, the Iroquois are cut out of the trade with the Europeans. In the summer of 1609, Champlain learns a basic lesson about doing business in North America. No trade without a military alliance. Champlain already knows the Algonquin chief Iroquet, who introduces him to a new partner, the Huron chief Uchetaguin. They urge him to go to war with them against the Iroquois.
I promised to help them in their wars, both to engage them the more to love us, and also to help my enterprises and explorations, which could only be carried out with their help.
Realizing he can do nothing without Indian allies, Champlain agrees. And so, a war party of 300 Indians and 9 Frenchmen sets off from Quebec at the end of June. For a month, they head south through lands no European has ever seen. But as they travel deeper into Iroquois territory, many in the party turn back. Only 60 Indians remain now, along with 3 Frenchmen. At Ticonderoga Point, they finally meet the enemy. On the night of July 30th, the 2 sides prepare for battle.
The whole night was spent in dances and songs on both sides, with many insults. Our side telling the Iroquois that they would see such deeds of arms as they had never seen.
At dawn, they come face to face with 200 Iroquois warriors.
Our Indians told me that those who had the big headdresses were the chiefs, and that there were only 3 of them, whom you could recognize by these feathers, which were larger than those of their companions. I was to do what I could to kill them. Our Indians called me with loud cries. They divided into 2 groups, made way for me, and put me ahead. As soon as they caught sight of me, halted and stared at me. When I saw them make a move to draw their bows upon us, I took aim with my arquebuse and fired straight at one of the 3 chiefs. I had put 4 bullets into my arquebuse. As soon as our people saw this shot so favorable for them, they began to shout loudly. Meanwhile, the arrows flew thick on both sides. The Iroquois were much astonished that 2 men should have been killed so quickly. This frightened them greatly. As I was reloading my arquebuse, one of my companions fired a shot. Seeing their chiefs dead, they lost courage and took flight into the depth of the forest.
The alliance is sealed in blood. Champlain has passed his first test.
We all separated with great declarations of mutual friendship. They asked me if I would not go to their country and help them like a brother. I promised them.
The French are now partners in a great alliance, but they have also made the 5 nations of the Iroquois their mortal enemies. For almost a century to come, they will pay the price. A great network of lakes and rivers, the arteries of the continent, links Quebec to the land of the Huron. It takes a month of travel to reach a tranquil valley by the shores of a great lake. This is Huronia. The first Frenchman to go there is just 18 years old. Etienne Brulé is one of the survivors of the terrible winter of 1609. A year later, Champlain sends him to the Huron in exchange for one of their young men. This is another building block of their alliance.
I was forced to stay all winter, waiting for company and escort. I took this opportunity to explore the country and to visit the neighboring tribes.
Brulé is welcomed, taught the Huron language and way of life. His most important task is to convince the Huron to bring their beaver skins to the trading post at Quebec each spring.
After having spent some time with these savages, I determined to withdraw to our settlement. And taking leave of them, I promised to introduce them to the French. I would return as soon as I could.
Etienne Brulé's commercial mission is a success, but he will return from Huronia a different man.
On the 13th of June, 200 Indians brought back Etienne Brulé, who came back dressed like an Indian. He was well pleased with the treatment he had received. He explained to me all that he had seen during the winter and what he had learned from them. He had learned their language very well.
Other young men follow him. Duvernay, Desmarais, Jean Nicolet. Guided by their Indian allies, they travel through the lakes and rivers, learning more about the lands to the west. The trading system of the Huron and the French now reaches into the heart of the continent. Before long, the little outpost at Quebec is receiving 15,000 beaver skins a year. The Indians are satisfied too. A Montagnier boasts that trade makes them wealthy and more powerful.
The beaver does everything perfectly well for us. It makes kettles, hatchets, swords, knives. In short, It makes everything.
In 1615, Champlain visits Huronia, discovering a complex and fascinating society.
In this extent of country, there are 18 villages, which may amount to 30,000 souls. Their lodges are covered with tree bark. And at the end of these cabins is a space where they keep their Indian corn. In one such cabin, there could be as much as 12 fires and 24 families.
As he comes to know the Huron better, Champlain decides they can be more than commercial and military allies.
I realized that it would be a great sin if I did not devise some means of bringing them to the knowledge of God. To attain this end, I looked for some good friars with zeal for the glory of God.
The Récollets are the first to bring word of the Christian God into the Canadian forest. One of them, Gabriel Sagard, is astonished by the Huron reaction to the French.
They have such a horror of the beard that sometimes when they try and insult us, they call us sesco ineronte, that is to say bearded. Moreover, they think it makes people more ugly and weakens their intelligence. Thus, these good folk think of us as very unintelligent by comparison with themselves. And at every moment, and on the slightest occasion, they say to you, Tayon Dion, that is to say, you have no sense.
Sagard is also scandalized by the conduct of his French countrymen. Trade and religion do not go together well.
Most of the blame for the interference was on the part of the French. Their immoral lifestyle aside, most among them did not want us to convert any Indian. They were afraid it might disrupt the beaver trade, one and only reason for their journey. My God, my blood runs cold when I think that a beaver pelt meant more to them than the salvation of a people.